Hey everyone, and welcome to this evening's session, which is going to be all about the revision toolkit, looking at 3 simple steps to improve your revision. We're going to be starting in about 5 minutes. I just wanted to jump on now to quick say hello to the people that are already there, and to get the chat started as well. So if you are watching and you can't access the chat at the moment, make sure you click the link to watch it through YouTube. Make sure you're signed in to YouTube and or on the app, and then the chat will be available. The reason that's going to be really helpful is we're going to be quite interactive today. So I'm going to be asking you questions, and you'll gain a lot more value from this session if you're able to contribute. So you've got a few minutes just to make sure you're logged into the chat. Once you are, just say hello to me. Let me know where you're watching from. I know we've got 2 people that are already in the chat and are, I say talking away. They've both said hello or done a little emoji at me. So hello to you too. And yeah, we'll be starting in a couple of minutes. So let me see how many people we've got here at the moment. So a few early birds. We've got 30 of you so far. Should be quite a few more. And apologies in advance if I keep touching my neck. You might have just seen in my Instagram stories, I slept so strangely last night. I think I must have knocked the pillow or something, but now my neck really hurts. And anytime I move it, it hurts. And if I want to like look over there, I'm like shifting my whole body. So without realizing, I keep like touching it just to try and wiggle it and make me be able to move a bit more. So if you do see me doing that, that is why. Okay. So there are a few questions already in the chat box. Some of you are just saying hello. Some of you are telling me where you're watching from. One person I can see was asking about the launch of the Biology Study Club, Platinum, if it's beneficial. I'm actually going to talk about that at the end. In terms of if it's beneficial, it depends what your needs are. If you are looking for tuition, but you can't afford like the one-to-one prices, but you still want to have that teacher-led revision, being asked questions and checking your answers, the opportunity to submit work, having a supportive community, the main things like the live lessons where we go through theory and exam questions. If that is something that you're looking for, then yeah, absolutely, it will be beneficial to you. And so far, everyone that I've had that's joined the club has found at least one, if not all of the elements beneficial, especially as you get access to a load of my resources already, including the flashcards. Okay, so someone had a sales test. So I'm disappointed as I did revise for and achieved a grade 9 in GCSE. Okay, the person that was just there telling me about their test, I actually filmed, I think it might have gone live on Sunday, a video, which is all about, maybe it's going live this Sunday, actually. I think it's going live this Sunday. I checked it this week and I've scheduled it. I'm releasing a video this Sunday on YouTube, which is going to be perfect for you because it's for people who've just done one of their first tests of the year. They revised, it didn't go to plan. Why is that? What can you do to improve? So look out for that video on Sunday. It's going to be released at midday and it'll help you with that. Okay, so it is now 6 o'clock. So welcome to the 60 of you that are here already. I'm expecting that to suddenly shoot up now that we've hit 6 o'clock as well. I am going to be doing questions at the end. I was just doing a few questions now at the start for those of you that were here early. But your questions, I will have time for them, whether it's about the content of today, or I can see a lot of you are asking questions about the study club. So this session will be probably about 25 to 30 minutes going through the revision toolkit. And then the rest of the time it's going to be a general Q&A, but also about the biology study club, because I can see quite a few of you have got questions and I'll make sure I do answer all of those. Just make sure you stick around to the end to go through those. This is going to be replayed or recorded. So if anyone asks that in the chat and I'm not seeing the messages, just let them know, yes, it is recorded and you can access it via my YouTube channel after the session on the lives tab. So that's where you'll be able to access this after this session. Okay, so all your questions that you've posted so far are relevant. So please post those again at the end in the Q&A session. But for now then, the revision toolkit. Welcome everyone. I'm going to be going through a 3-step plan to help you improve your revision and your grade. So I can see some of you were saying in the chat, you've done a test, you felt like you revised really well, you didn't do as well as you hoped, or you're not improving. By the end of this session, you should have some strategies to put in place immediately to start improving. So this session is for students, like I can see in the chat box that you're saying, you might be struggling to improve. You might be having issues in terms of you're not getting the grades that you thought you would do from the levels of revision you've been doing. So the chances are you're probably doing ineffective revision and therefore not making progress. So what you're going to learn in this session and be able to take away is how you can improve your existing revision strategy. And by the end of this session together, you will know the exact 3 steps to take to improve your revision strategy and to get higher grades. So I can see there were questions in there. Just to let you know, when I'm like talking like this and projecting, I can't see the chat box. So I will be flicking between the two, but that is why I want to dedicate a solid chunk of time at the end to make sure I can address your questions. Because if you've come to this session, you obviously want to improve, you've got that motivation. So I want to make sure I do give you the time and the answers that you need to make sure that you can make those improvements. Okay, so what we're going to do in this session, then I've briefly said a little bit, but here's a journey of what you're going to experience between now and 7 o'clock. We are going to start with me explaining to you what a 20-minute revision planning party is. And there's going to be a little social media prize linked to that, because if you do this 20-minute revision party today before 9 p.m. and post it to social media and tag me, then I'll give one of you who does that my notes for free, which are worth almost £50. So one of you will be getting a resource almost worth £50. So we'll come back to the 20-minute revision party next. After that, we're going to do a quick audit or review of how effective your revision is currently. Because a lot of you have said you thought you did good revision or you did the revision, but the test didn't go very well. So that's going to be really important for you to do that step, reviewing how effective your current revision is. Then we're going to go on to the 3 simple steps to follow for success. And I'm going to tell you all 3 of them quite early on. It's not like some secret I'm going to keep until the end to make sure you all stay here, because hopefully you're all going to stay anyway, because there's going to be so much value for free for you in this session. But I'm going to tell you the 3 steps pretty much straight away. But I'm then going to go through with you step 1, how you would do it, step 2, how you would do it, and step 3, how you would do that, to make sure that you are doing the most effective revision and being as efficient as possible with your time. Then at the end, I'm going to talk through the opportunity to do your revision with me and work with me. That links to the biology study club that lots of you were asking about already, which I love that you're already aware of it. And then finally, as I said, there will be time for questions at the end as well. Right, so the 20-minute revision party. What is this? So a 20-minute revision party or planning party is pretty much exactly as it sounds. When you know you've got a test coming up, this is one of the first things I'd recommend you do, is plan your revision. And this is just one example of how you could do it in a way that is quick. It's going to be, I say fun, that might be pushing it a little bit, but you can pump out some tunes, and then we're going to look at how you can arrange your time. So what you'd need to do for this 20-minute revision party is use Post-it notes, or you can just cut up pieces of paper, or you could just write it down on like sticky tabs if you want to do it electronically. And you need to write down what topics you need to revise and these kinds of activities you want to do. So I've got an example here for some of the things you might write down if you had a biological molecules test coming up. So I've written down some of the biological molecules you might have to revise, and then some strategies, so review notes, review the theory, exam questions, blurting, flashcards. But what makes it a party? Very simply, you're going to be playing some loud music with it. So my personal choice would probably be a bit of Taylor Swift, maybe some of the upbeat songs though, if I'm trying to get revved up and motivated for a revision planning party by myself. Let me know in the chat box, what would your choice of music be for a 20-minute revision planning party? But once you've done that, and you've got your topics on your Post-it notes, you've got your music playing, the next step is then rearranging your Post-it notes into what you're going to do on Monday, if that is your first day of revision, and then Tuesday, then Wednesday, then Thursday. And in this way, I know lots of people don't like revision timetables. I personally love them, but I like structure and guidelines to follow. But if you don't, this is a bit more flexible then, because you've got on your Post-it notes everything you need to do. You're going to stick it out on the different days that you're going to do it. And there you go, you've got your revision plan done. And then each day You just follow your post-it notes. Once you've achieved it, you can rip that post-it note off and you are done. So that's very quickly introduction. First thing to take away already is that revision planning party. And as I said, if you ever go at doing that this evening, take some photos, post it on social media as long as you tag me, and then I will do a random draw of all the people that tag me, and one of you will then get my notes for free. And I'll tell you a bit more about that again at the end. Okay, now we get on to auditing how effective your revision is. So into the chat box, could you all tell me a number between 1 and 10 to rate what you think your current revision strategy is like in terms of how effective it is? Where 1 is, it's awful, and 10 is, it is perfect. So somewhere between 1 and 10, where would you rate your current revision strategy in terms of how effective it is in you making progress and getting good grades, or what you would consider to be a good progress grade for you? Okay. I just saw one quick question. Can you use these techniques in other subjects? Yes. So what I'm going through with you today is applicable for all A levels. It's not biology specific. Okay, we've got 6.5, 5.5, 6, 6, 7, 6, 6, 6, 4, 6, 6. Right, 6 seems to be the most popular. Some slightly higher, some slightly lower, but maybe 5 and 6, I'd say, is the average, which, as you can see, that's where I put my scale, because that's what I thought most people would probably go for. Now, it is hard to rate yourself when I haven't given you any criteria. So once I actually go through the 3 steps of what you need to do, we might come back to this and see, well, how effective is it actually when you now know what you should be doing? Because, yeah, normally when you do this sort of thing, you have 2 types of people. You have the people who always overestimate how good they are, and the people that always underestimate how good they are. And so you get the sway of some people go really high, some people go really low. And then you have the other group of people who are like, oh, I'm not sure. So I'm just going to kind of go in the middle. But if I give you some strict criteria of what to look at to rate your effectiveness, then we'll probably get a much more accurate answer. So let's have a look then. I said I wasn't going to keep it a secret and I was going to jump straight into it. We are 9 minutes in. Here are the 3 simple steps, which they shouldn't be a surprise to you. So you might be looking at it thinking, well, yeah, I knew that already. Good. You should know this already. But the key thing that I'm going to be going through with you is proportions of time spent on each of them and what you should actually be doing for each of these steps. So the 3 key steps to successful revision are: you need to start at the bottom and make sure you have a solid understanding of the information. Then you can go up to the next step, which is making sure you can remember that information. And then when you understand and remember it, you go up to the final step of your revision, which is practicing and improving your exam technique. So these are the 3 steps. They should be done in this order. You can kind of go back and forth between the steps, but you should never skip understanding and remembering and jump straight to exam questions, because you will get the exam questions wrong if you don't know the information, as in understand it, and you don't remember it. And then you've wasted your time. You've wasted an exam question that you could do later on to really test yourself. And it might be really demotivating as well, seeing a lower score on exam questions. So my questions to you then are, we're not going to rate your revision just yet again, because there's one more thing I'll need to tell you. But what I want to do to bring you back to the chat box to make sure I've still got everyone focused, no one's got distracted looking at something else on their phone, is number 1, do you do all 3 of those steps for every test? And number 2, do you do an equal split of time for those steps? Okay, so a couple of you have said you think the remembering is the hardest part. Do you know what? It probably is, because there is so much information to remember. Some parts of A-level biology are hard to understand. Some parts aren't that hard to understand. There's just so much to remember, and it's getting it in your long-term memory. Okay, so let's see. Number 1, yes. Number 2, no. Okay. a mix of answers which I'd expect. Some of you said you do the understanding and then you jump straight to the questions. Some of you say you spend way too long on the understanding, then you run out of time and don't actually get onto the trying to remember and then doing the exam technique. Let's see. Some of you are picking out some topics that you really find hard to understand. Okay, so we've got a mix there, but a lot of you have either said you don't do all 3 steps to revise for every test, or you aren't splitting it equally. Now, this is where we're going to go back and re-rate how effective your revision is, because before every test, you should be doing all 3 of these steps, but not in equal proportions. And that's why sometimes people run out of time, or they might do lots of revision and think, yeah, that's great, I've done so much revision for this test, but then you don't do as well as you expected. And it's probably because you either didn't do all 3 steps, or you didn't do them in the correct order, understanding, remembering, practicing, or you didn't do it in the correct proportions, or maybe it's all of those reasons. You put the time and effort in, just doing the wrong thing. So you should spend about 20% of your time understanding the information. So you aren't spending that long comparatively on the understanding, because you should hopefully have a pretty good understanding already from doing this in your lessons already and doing your homework. It might just be some of the harder parts you didn't quite understand a lesson, you need to go over again. Or if it's a really hard topic for you or just in general, you might need to spend a bit more time understanding it if it's one of the really hard topics. But in general, not as much time is spent on the understanding. So once you have then understood the information, step 2 is spending about 40% of your time actively recalling those facts, because that is how you improve your memory of it. And 40% of your time should then be doing exam questions, which is the practicing, the exam technique, and improving in that area. And you might start to have a bit of an overlap between when you're doing the remembering and the practice. It doesn't literally have to be, I'm just doing remembering, now I'm stopping that and just doing practice. But you need to be doing remembering before you start that step. Like we go back to literally looking at visualizing the step. Here it is showing you do this and then that, but there's going to be a bit of an overlap. Okay, so into the chat box. Now that you know that for effective revision, you should be doing those 3 steps approximately in this proportion, how would you rate your revision? And let me see some things that come from the chat box. You keep revising easy topics and procrastinating, someone says. Such a common thing to do, because it is a bit of a boost to your like motivation, doing the easier ones that you know, because then you feel really good, like, oh yeah, I've got this. Going to ignore the harder ones because that feels uncomfortable. But yeah, you're not going to improve doing that, unfortunately. Someone says, what's the best method for remembering? That's what we're going to go on to next. I'm going to go through the best methods to do to understand, remember, and practice. So this is the steps, the proportion. Then I'm going to talk you through how you actually do each step. Would this method work for all A levels? Yes, it will. But what you do for your active recall might be different. Now, I say yes, it works for all A levels, not if it's going to be something like art, because that's not so much remembering, that's more practical based. So subjects where it is far more like coursework and practical based is not literally going to be the same. But for maths, chemistry, psychology, economics, physics, all the ones where you've got lots of theory to understand and remember, and then you have an exam, yes, this will work for all of those. Right, it looks like the average rating has dropped now, because instead of seeing 6 7, some 8s and a few lower, I've got 3 3 4 5 6 6 7 6 4 6. So some of you saying, I think I've been doing too many practice questions and just skipping the rest, because you always hear do exam questions, which you do have to do, they're so vital, but if you do them too soon, they aren't going to help you improve. And then you lose some of the questions you could have done later on. So some of you that were saying you've done your first test and it really didn't go well, this is probably why. And now you know that, you can fix it and start following this. So your next test, you should start to see improvements. Okay, so someone said, where can you get exam questions except PMT? I've got them bundled on my website for free by topic and by skill. You can get them directly from your exam board website as well. Those ones won't be arranged by questions, it'll be arranged as past papers though. So that's the split. Now, as I said, I'm going to talk you through what can you actually do for each of these stages then. So the understanding stage, most of this is going to be done in lesson. Your teacher is teaching it to you so that you understand it. But if you didn't understand it in the lesson, then the sorts of things you can do by yourself independently as part of your revision to make sure you understand it to start with could be review using YouTube videos, which I'm sure you're aware because you're literally on my YouTube channel right now. I've got a YouTube channel. I cover the entire A level for OCR, AQA, Cambridge International. So the entire theory is there covered in my video. So you just need to search the topic or the entire topic video for OCR and CIE, and you can then review it. Or you could do it with your class notes or a textbook, revision notes you might have made, or my revision notes that you can get for all three of those subjects as well. And what you can do then when you're trying to understand that information, whether it's through reading notes or watching videos, what I'd recommend is pausing when you've watched a bit of the content, and don't just literally transcribe what's being said because that's really passive. Instead, to test that you've understood it, try, and if there's a big block of information, maybe see if you can summarize that in a few bullet points, or can you turn that into a diagram? Or if there's a diagram, can you turn that into a bullet point list? Some way that you're having to change or process the information that you hear, because that is really testing. Have you understood what you've just heard in that video, or have you understood what you've seen in those notes? But if you're just copying it word for word, you're not checking you've understood it. You're just checking, do you understand English, and can you copy something down? So that's how to use the YouTube videos or your revision notes or the textbook to test, do you understand it? I'm just going to see a couple of questions that might be relevant to what I was literally just saying now. Otherwise, I'll save those to the end. We do flip learning for bio. We have to learn the content at home, and homework is to make notes, go through a topic in class. We go through the topic and the teacher in about 10 minutes. And then you do activities. Flip learning is actually something I'm a big advocate for because it improves your independent learning skills. But the best way to do that is if you've got your textbook or YouTube videos, going through it, making your own notes, but make a list of questions to take to your class teacher that you didn't understand, because in the lesson you can then say, look, I've gone through it all, made the notes. However, there were these two parts I didn't understand. These are the particular questions I've got for you. Can you now explain it? And that's how flip learning works best. Okay, so that's our understanding. And just so we can have a little example of this, I'm going to briefly show you the sorts of things you could do. So we're not really going to focus on what this theory is as such. We're going to imagine I am a bit stuck on phagocytosis, don't really understand it. So I'm reviewing it again, either in one of the YouTube videos or in my notes. And I've come across, right, phagocytosis. I've got a few facts to begin with. So macrophage, which is a type of blood cell, white blood cell, found in the blood, found in the tissue. And then it says phagocytosis is a non-specific response. Any non-self cells will trigger this response. So the sorts of things then I'd be doing from this information is maybe make a flashcard saying, what is a phagocyte? And I could have on the other side, bullet point, macrophage, bullet point, involved in the non-specific response, bullet point, it will respond to non-self cells. So that's how I'm kind of like processing that information, not just copying it. Or you could instead be highlighting the key information and have a little keyword list on the side. So keywords would be macrophage, phagocytosis, non-specific response, non-self cell. So that is the first thing I could do to try and understand this information. And if there was a bit I didn't understand, that's when I'd then write down a question to take to a teacher or a tutor. Or if you're in the biology study club, you'd bring it to me and I could answer it for you. So you might say, well, I don't understand what a non-self cell is. And that's when I could say to you, non-self cells are any cells that trigger an immune response because they don't have your antigens on the outside. So that could be an antigen presenting cell. It could be an infected body cell, so it's infected with a virus. It could be an abnormal body cell, like a cancerous one. And it could be as well a cell from another organism, like a transplant. So that's how you test your understanding of that. The next part of phagocytosis that I'm stuck on is I don't understand the process. So I've gone to watch a YouTube video or I've got the information in notes, and what I'm presented with is this process of what phagocytosis is, and there's diagrams there to help me. So we've got the different stages. We're told that a phagocyte's in the blood or the tissues. There's chemicals that are released by the pathogen. It attracts the phagocyte. We've then got receptors that can bind to it. It engulfs, changes shape, forms that vesicle known as the phagosome. Next step, we've got, once it's trapped in that phagosome, the lysosome fuses with it, and so on and so on. So we've got that whole process there. So at this point, we're not trying to remember it. It's just, I'm saying the scenario, I'm struggling to understand it. So if I was struggling to understand this information, this is the kind of example where it'd be really good to test yourself in both ways. First of all, have those 8 bullet points written out maybe on half a page. And for every bullet point, you draw a diagram. And it doesn't have to be factually correct, like factual biology. Just draw a diagram for you that visually represents what that information is saying. And then do those 8 diagrams. So you've got a visual representation of that information. And everyone works differently. For me, I find that really helps. And I always still do this. When I do AQA exam questions and you have those really difficult questions, loads of information, like a flow diagram to follow with an unknown example, I usually annotate with diagrams because I find it easier to read the information and then visually work out what is happening in the scenario they're giving me. So that's one thing you do to help you understand. Or you could do the opposite. We've got a diagram there. Instead, it could be look at the diagram and you write the bullet point list. So that's the sort of thing you can do to help you understand the information in the first place, but you're still doing it in an active way because we were either picking out keywords, drawing diagrams to match the text, or turning the diagrams into text, or coming up with a list of questions for a teacher, tutor, or for me if you're in the biology study club. So it's still active. And it's not just passively sat there watching a video doing nothing but listening to me talk at you, which I've realised I am doing now. So I need to bring you back into the chat because we're being quite passive. I'm just sat here talking at you, which takes us into the next step, remembering. So into the chat box, what do you currently do to help you remember the key information? So we've talked about what you could have done to understand it. How do you remember the information? A lot of you use flashcards, blurting mind maps. Teach someone else. Yeah, that's a good one. Or like test someone else as well, which is also why I love in the biology study club that it is a community as well. There's like a chat room. I set challenges. So you can, if there isn't someone at school or college that you feel you can do this with, then in the biology study club, especially if you're like doing resits or mature student or homeschooled, or for whatever reason you aren't at school a lot of the time, then you've got that online community where you can do that testing or teaching each other. Okay, brilliant. So there's lots of good strategies there. There are lots of things you could do, but the main thing is to improve your memory, it has to be active recall. And what that means is you're doing something, an activity that is, which tests, do you know this fact? So reading a book is not active recall because you're testing, do you understand the information you're reading? You weren't testing, did you remember it? Because you've already read it now. So in terms of the sorts of things you can do, yeah, flashcards, brilliant. Blurting is brilliant. Teaching someone else helps you to develop the neural pathways and understand it. Testing each other verbally. Mind maps. So yeah, having to process the information and arrange it in another way to see how it all connects helps you to remember it as well. So flashcards, loads of you use them, which I love because they are my favorite technique as well, which is why Well, I do have an active recall workbook as well, which is all the short answer style questions and activities. But you probably hear me talk about my flashcards more often than that because I truly love the flashcards and I love using flashcards. As you can see me doing in that picture there is a stage picture. I wasn't actually using my flashcards, but just to show you the sorts of things you can do. So flashcards, amazing active recall. They do help improve your long-term memory if you use them correctly, which I'm going to talk you through. And not only do they help improve your long-term memory of all of those really particular key marking points that you have for AQA biology and all the other exam boards for biology as well, but they are a great way to be efficient with your time. And I know you have a lot to fit into a short space of time. So if we can come up with strategies that are really effective but efficient, that is perfect. That is the absolute what we're going to be looking for. So let me talk you through this lightness system, which you may or may not have heard of before. Just in the chat box, can you just let me know, have you heard of the lightness system before? You might say no to this, but when I talk you through it, you might be like, oh no, I did know that. I just didn't know that that was what it's called. But the lightness system, anyone heard of it already? If anyone's a member of the biology study club already, they might have heard of it because I actually have a whole tutorial on the lightness system. Because you get my flashcards as part of being a member of the club, I have a tutorial of how to use them. So people that are already in the club might have known this. Okay, let me talk you through it because most people don't know what the lightness system is. So this is a way to use your flashcards, which will make sure you're doing spaced repetition and it's really efficient use of your time and it will improve your focus. Spaced repetition, by the way, is basically what it says. When you do revision, you should be spacing out when you revise each topic and repeatedly revise each topic. That's why my study tracker that you may or may not have seen, it's like an Excel spreadsheet I've got, which is one of the resources I do have for every exam board. I've got a list of all the spec points and then 5 columns because you're meant to revise every topic 5 times throughout your A level. That is the golden number to get the information in your long-term memory. And then I've got a drop-down menu for you to select what activity you do. By the way, you get that in the Biology Study Club. The study tracker as well is included within the price. But yeah, spaced repetition means you should be spacing out when you revise each topic on repeat. And the lightness system, let me talk you through what it is. Ideally, you would have 4 boxes, or you could literally just have a piece of paper that says 1, 2, 3, 4 on it. And number 1 represents cards you're going to test yourself on every day. Number 2 represents cards you're going to test yourself on every other day. Number 3 is twice per week. Number 4 is once per week. Now, you might have to adjust these timings based on when your test is, because if it's a really long time away, you might want to space it out a bit more. If it's only a week's time, you might want to make those intervals shorter. But this is a general idea. Each box is getting a longer period of time away or a bigger interval of time. So the system involves several boxes or levels, like we saw. Your whole pack of flashcards starts on box 1. And on day 1 of your revision, when you've checked that you understood the information and now you're trying to remember the information, you would go through your entire pack. Let's say it's biological molecules, go through your whole pack of cards on biological molecules. And when you answer a card correctly, you would move that on to box 2. If you got a card wrong or you didn't remember it, even if it was only a slight detail you didn't remember, that counts as wrong. You put it back on pile 1. And what that then means is the cards that you don't remember as well, you are testing yourself on daily. And the cards that you already got correct straight away, you're reviewing less often. So you're going to be far more efficient with your time because you are spending your time testing yourself more often on what you can't remember. And in that way, the ones you can't remember is getting more attention, so you should remember it quicker. The ones that you already know, you're not wasting your time looking over it over and over again because you already know it. So as the cards move up the boxes, you review them less often, and this is spaced repetition, but in an efficient way. So let's just see a final summary on this. You would begin by reviewing your entire pack, let's say biological molecules, although the example we've got there looks like topic 3. For every correct answer, you move the card to the next box. For every incorrect one, you look at the previous one, like we said. Then when you get to every other day, you'd go through your cards. If it was correct, you got it correct. That is, you move it up to box 3. If it was wrong, it goes back to box 1, and then you go back to doing it daily. So that's what we mean by the lightness system. Some of you I can see saying this is basically Anki. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Some apps like Anki, their algorithm is inbuilt to be the likeness system. So they are really effective, apps like Anki, because that's literally what they do. If you get it wrong, you see that card more often. If you got it right, you see it less often. So Anki is an app that follows an algorithm to mimic this. So that is one of the best ways, I'd say, to remember the information. So once you've then remembered it, which will be an ongoing process to make sure you don't then forget it, we get to the practice stage, which is exam questions. And with exam questions, one question I saw in the chat box was, where can you get them from? PMT is great for getting bundles of exam questions. I have them on my freebies tab on my website as well, bundled by question, topic, and skill. And you can get them from your exam board. But what we're going to focus on is how you use exam questions in this practicing part of your revision to actually improve. Because I know most of you are aware you should do exam questions, but how do you actually do exam questions in a way that is improving your exam technique? So what I suggest that you do when you do exam questions is, one part of exam technique is making sure you know the command words and you understand exactly what you're being asked to do. Because when you're in exam conditions, adrenaline's running, you're going to be nervous, you might make mistakes. So what I'd suggest is, when you do exam questions, get in the habit of highlighting the command word each time. Oh, no, that is crossing it out. We want to highlight the command word, which in this case is describe, which means give an account of. No explanation, just give an account. So highlight the command word and the number of marks it's worth. And when you're answering exam questions, unless it is one of the 6 markers for OCR or the essay for AQA, you can bullet point your answer. So for a 3-mark question, you're looking to have at least 3 bullet points. If you can, add in a 4th one as like an insurance, just in case one of them wasn't worth a mark. And then I'd be bullet pointing what I think the answer is, and really be thinking back to my flashcards. This question is about phagocytes. What were some of those key marking points that I saw to do with what a phagocyte is and the process of phagocytosis? Because I need to make sure those key terms are within my answer. So you might, I don't know, I'm going to have a look at the chat box to see if anyone fancied having a go at this. You didn't have to, so we're more talking about the technique, but you might have had a go thinking about what those different marks would be. But I'm going to jump on to the next question now, because as I said, we're not actually focusing on the theory today. We're thinking about the technique and strategy. The next one we've got here was give, let me just change this to yellow again, give 2 types of cells, which basically means name 2 types of cells. But reading the question really carefully, this is why I always say to highlight and underline when you're reading the information, other than pathogens that can stimulate a response. This one's 2 marks, obviously 1 mark for each part, but making sure you read questions carefully, you're looking at the command words, and you're definitely addressing the number of marks it should be. So that's why bullet points are really good. You should also be practicing your timing, because sometimes that's what people find difficult, is when you get into the exam, you've never done it in time conditions and you've run out of time. So on average, this is really specific, by the way, it works out as 1.3 minutes per mark for AQA, and it's about the same for all exam boards. Now, you don't literally have to be that specific. You could say it's a 3-mark question. I'm going to allow myself between 3 and 4 minutes, set a timer, off you go, see if you are fast enough. So that's what I'd suggest to do in terms of approaching the exam questions. The next thing, though, with the exam questions that you get a lot of value from is looking at the mark schemes. So for this one, we've got engulf, came up. So black highlight. Let's go for something a bit lighter. Engulf. We then saw forms of phagosome, these are the lysosome, digest and hydrolyze. So what I would then take from doing this exam question is I'd look back at the flashcards and check, do I have a flashcard where it talks about phagocytosis and it's got these key marking points? Or in my notes that I've made, have I definitely highlighted the word engulf, phagosome, lysosome, digest, because that is what's come up on the mark scheme. So I need to make it now explicitly clear in my revision notes on my flashcards that those are key marking points that have come up in exam questions. This one here, we've got the 3 types of cells that came up. This one is like just like facts to know because it's literally bullet pointed on the spec, but it might be that you do that question, you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was a big focus. I better go and add in a flashcard now, which says, name the types of cells that trigger an immune response and then have them listed on the other side. So that's how you're using exam questions. Part of it is just practice. So you're practicing the timing, practicing the strategy of picking out the exam command words, what's been asked of you, so you can process questions quickly, practicing math skills, practicing application. But it's not just the practice of the timing and the exam technique of understanding it. It's gaining value from the mark scheme, going back to look at your notes, flashcards, and check, are you picking out key marking points and learning from what you missed off on the mark scheme to make it explicitly clear that that's what you didn't remember as well. Okay, so there we go. That is your revision strategy. We've gone through that. These are the 3 steps you should be taking. That's the proportion of time you should be spending on each step. And I've given you an example of how you go about doing the understanding, the remembering, and practicing. So hopefully you now feel a lot more aware and confident of what you should be doing for your revision, how you should be doing your revision as well. And if you now start implementing this, you should start to see changes. Don't expect like a mega change overnight. This does take time to understand, remember, and improve, but keep following this strategy and you will continue to improve. You've got to play the long game and make sure you're consistently doing this. So I did say that I'd be talking to you about, once we've gone through all of that information, your opportunity to revise and do all your learning, whether that's the understanding, the remembering, or the practicing, with me as part of your revision. So if you do want to have help from a teacher when you're doing the understanding part, to be able to ask questions that maybe you didn't feel comfortable to ask in the class, or you didn't have time to ask in class, or you didn't realize you didn't understand it until you were out of the lessons, or if you need the resources to help you structure your spacing out your revision, the flashcards, or if you just need that motivation from other like-minded students and to test each other, and like I said, the practice, then the Biology Study Club will be for you. So let me tell you about your opportunity to do your revision with me for your entire A-level. And it is with the Biology Study Club. So you might have heard a bit about this already because I've been talking about it a lot on my social media this week because I've relaunched it this week. I have completely transformed it. It's been running for a year, but I've given it the glow up of all glow ups based on student feedback. Last year, the study club involved 1 lesson with me a month. This year, you get 10 live tuition lessons per month, not just from me. You get it from a trained AQA and OCR teacher who I've personally worked with. They've both been teaching for over 10 years and they're both examiners and have been examiners for their exam board for years. So you get 10 live tuition lessons a month now instead of 1. You get to be part of a supportive study community, including there is an app so that you can actually be in the chat room. You can send me questions. I get the notifications. Just so you're aware, I turn notifications off on Instagram because I get so many and I don't always get all the messages, so they get sent to the hidden bit. So if you're in the study club, the Biology Study Club, I see your questions and I can give you one-on-one advice verbally through that chat. I mark work for students as well, and I submit that as a video for everyone to learn from. So if you want essays marked, which by the way, I was an AQA examiner this year, so I have been an examiner for AQA marking essays. I marked over 150 essays, I think it was. So if you want to have your essay marked by an actual examiner, so you know you are getting the exact feedback, you get that in the club. It doesn't have to be essays. I know not all exam boards do essays. There's a vault of previous lessons that I've created, whether it's biology or study skills, none of which are available on YouTube for free. They are all exclusive videos to the study club. You get my flashcards, study tracker, revision timetable, my past paper analysis spreadsheet, where I've gone through every single past paper for AQA and OCR and looked at the proportion of each topic that's ever come up. So you see which topics really come up a lot. I've already said you get quick responses from me. There's also a quiz that I send you right at the start. And this quiz basically is a series of questions. And then based on your answers, I can tell you what your current level is and recommend what you do first in the club. So again, it's all about being more efficient with your time. And not only that, with the study community, the more you take part in challenges, because I set you challenges, the more you comment, the more you come to the live lessons, you earn points. And as you get to 10 points, 50 points, 100 points, you win different resources of mine for free. And if you contribute enough, you can literally get every one of my resources for free, including my exam technique course, which like costs £300, and my essay course. So those are the sorts of things you get. Students who have been in this club do really love it. They love the fact that you get these live lessons. They love the community side of it, so you can talk to like-minded students. I actually also sift through all the biology news each week, and there's a little tab where I summarize the key things for you. So if you have got interviews coming up, I've done all the research for you. You just need to go and read the article, or you might be interested. But yeah, the students love the structure of the live lessons. There's weekly exam questions that we go through. You get a copy of all the lesson slides. You get a copy of all the exam questions. As I said, there's 3 teachers that do it. Me, Miss Doyle, Miss Messon. All of us have been teaching for over 15 years. All of us have been examiners. And also this person loved the flashcards. So normally at this point, I get asked, how much does it cost? And I'm surprised, I've not seen that yet. So how much it costs, I'm going to get to. This is a list of everything it includes, or at least one of the tiers. This is the top tier. You get 10 live lessons a month. You get to submit your work to me each month to be marked. You get an access to pre-recorded lessons, which is to do with revision and theory. I think there's some essays and practicals in there as well. By the way, with the live lessons, you get to request what you want as well. So we have a schedule based on what we think will be most helpful. But if there's a topic that you think, oh, actually, I know you said this is coming up next week, but the week after, I'm really struggling with practicals, maths, this topic, we schedule it based on requests as well. So you do get to have it tailored to your needs in that way. As I said, you get a load of my popular resources thrown in. You get the study community. You can earn lots of or all of the resources for free. There's a quiz right at the start to make sure you're doing the right thing as well in the club. So what this would cost, and this is not what I'm charging, before you panic, 10 live lessons a month plus the value of those resources and everything else there would be way over £500 a month if you were going to pay for 10 hours of one-to-one tuition and buy all of those resources and pay someone to mark your work outside of school hours. That is, it'd be way over £500 a month. Now, that is not realistic, and I would not be charging you that. So to get the top tier, which includes all of that, the biology study club is £50 per month, which I realise that does sound, and it is quite a lot still, but one-to-one tuition from an examiner or someone with as much experience as me, Miss Messer, Miss Doyle, you're looking at about £75 to £100 an hour nowadays for one-to-one tuition with someone that experienced, whereas you get 10 hours for less than the price of one tuition lesson. And that is just thinking about the tuition. You also get the study community, all of those resources, you get set challenges, you get pre-recorded lessons, and you get me to mark your work. And you've got me on hand on the app to ask questions too. So for less than the cost of one-to-one tuition lesson, you get all of that per month. Now, that is still a fair bit of money. So there are options to either meet financial needs or what you actually feel you need. So a step down from the platinum, which is what I've talked to you about so far, is the gold membership, where you get 7 live lessons instead of 10. You don't get access to the replays of those, and you don't get to submit work to me. So that's what is taken away, but that's why it's then cheaper. For £15 a month, you don't get any of the live lessons, but instead you do get access to that list of resources. You get everything in the app, such as the challenges, the weekly news. You still get to talk to me in the app and all the students, and you can still earn points to get all of my resources, but you don't get the live lessons. So those are the 3 different options. And I will be going through questions that you might have had, because I can see that there's questions in there. But just to make you aware, this is the relaunch week. After relaunch week, so from Monday, these prices will go up. But if you pay and sign up this week, your price forever will be the one that you pay today. So even if I increase my prices at a later date, your price will never change for the study club, as long as you don't cancel your membership and then sign up again. So if you signed up today for the platinum, £50 a month, it will never be more than £50 a month for you. After Monday, it will be £60 a month forever. And then it'll probably go up at some point. Inflation, it might be a couple of years, we don't know. But also, if you sign up using the link that I pinned at the top of the chat, and you'll get sent to you in an email, then you will get the launch price, but you'll also get the biological mind maps that I have on my website, and the diagrams that you need to label as part of active revision thrown in today for free as well, as an added on extra. So that's what's in the biology study club. That's how much it costs. Those are the resources. Students have found this incredibly helpful. This is just a quick reminder about the social media prize. And then I'm going to go through and answer some questions. Now, I'm guessing that I'm going to answer the FAQs, so like the most common questions that come up linked to the biology study club. I often get the question of when are the lessons? So OCR lessons are on a Tuesday, and it's every other Tuesday for OCR. AQA lessons are on a Wednesday, and exam questions are on a Thursday. The OCR lessons are at 7 p.m, AQA is at 5:30, exam questions are at 7. There are more AQA lessons than there are OCR, because AQA is the most widely taken exam board, followed by OCR. That's why I've focused on those 2. It's a split of year 12 and year 13 content every month. So if you're in year 13, then you can still go to year 12 lessons, so that you're revising. If you're in year 12 and you're a platinum member, you have those lessons recorded that you can look at over the summer and get ahead, or when you get to those topics, or you can still go to them and just get a head start. Is it worth it if you're from another exam board? That's normally what I get asked as well. If you don't take AQA, exam boards like EdXL, WJC, CIE are very similar to OCR, because I've made resources for those, I've tutored for them, and those are most similar to the OCR spec. But there are overlaps in theory for all of the exam boards, particularly like the fundamental topics like biological molecules, cells, and so on. So it is still worth it, because you get access to all of this revision, all of these resources. But what I'd recommend you did is have your specification with you when you came to the live lessons, and you're always told in advance what the topic is. So if it was going to be a lesson on proteins, have the spec open for proteins. So when you're being taught it, you can check, do I need to know that fact? Yes or no? And you can also ask the teacher and just be an ask and say, my spec says this. Is that something you've said today or not? So you can clarify it that way. So those are the most common questions I get, but let me now go to the actual chat box and see what you've said. Is there a discounted price for the bursary? So yeah, with bursary, I always do 25% off, but you'll need to email me that. You need to email the evidence, and then you get 25% off for all of my stuff if you're on the bursary. Is there a way you can buy the practice past paper analysis separately? No, it's exclusively available only in the biology study club. Someone said, so it's one-on-one tutoring. So this is not one-on-one tutoring. That is why I'm able to bring the price down so much, because there's a group of you. I then don't have to charge the same prices for one-to-one tuition. However, I did get asked yesterday, well, how many people are in the group lessons? So far, the group lessons have ranged from 1, the most I ever had was 40, but that was right at peak exam season when people were coming. On average, 5 to 10 students come. And the way the lessons work are you have the slides are projected, questions are asked, you enter it into the chat box, the teacher can then speak to you directly and let you know, oh, your answer you wrote there was really good, or this bit needs to be edited. So it's not one-to-one, it's one teacher to a small group usually. And what I particularly like is because it's people who have chosen to sign up to this group or this club, in all the lessons, it's such a supportive, friendly atmosphere. So you never have to feel worried about writing your answer in the chat box because everyone is so supportive. No one cares if someone gets something wrong. It's just, oh, got it wrong, try again. So it's such a great way for you to be able to confidently, without worrying about what people might think, test your knowledge and write your answer, even if it's wrong. That means the teacher can actually give you personalized feedback in the lesson then. So it's a really nice group of students within the club. Can you still request lessons for the gold? Yes, so for gold, you can still request lessons. You get fewer lessons in the gold and you don't get access to the replays, but you still have the opportunity to say, oh, I'd like to see this lesson if it's possible. Can we still get the biological molecule stuff if we purchase the gold membership? Yeah, so it doesn't matter which membership you buy today if you do, as long as you use the link in the email, or I can actually paste the gold one now for you if you want. As long as you do it via this link, so I'm going to paste in the gold one for you, then you will get the biological molecules thrown in. There we go. So that's the gold one. Let me go back to see where I was at with the questions. I understand most of the content, but get lower marks in tests because I'm not adhering to the strict mark scheme. What do you suggest? So partly it will be using flashcards, which are mark scheme specific. So for example, the ones that you get as part of being a member of the Biology Study Club are mark scheme specific. As I said, I've been an examiner for AQA. Miss Messon's been an examiner for OCR. We've both vetted these flashcards to make sure they're literally up to date, reviewing the last set of exams, that they are mark scheme specific. But what you can do if you want to make your own flashcards is from my YouTube videos, I always point out key marking points, or from your teacher's lesson notes maybe, or from doing exam questions yourself, pick out words that are underlined or that come up a lot for different topics. And you can always just have a bank of, these are the key marking points for this topic. Can you join both AQA and OCR? Yes. So most students, it doesn't matter what exam board they do, they go to all of the live lessons. And that is because a lot of the information is exactly the same. And so they find it helpful to go to the AQA version and the OCR because then they're hearing it twice, or they hear slightly different explanation or a little bit extra information. And Miss Messon has done both AQA and OCR. So although she teaches it OCR, she's able to say to you, well, you don't need to know this bit for your exam board. So this bit's extra, but this is what you do need to know. So yeah, you can still go to any of the lessons and get value from it. At the moment, I can see there's a question at the end. I'm just sticking to questions about either the content today or the Biology Study Club. Any more questions? Okay, what I'm just going to do is, in case you didn't see it, where did it go to make sure you definitely get your bonus? Platinum, here it is. So if you did want to, this is the Platinum sign up. That's the link to use to make sure you get the £50 a month forever, won't ever increase beyond that, and get the biological maps and diagrams for free. Just so you know, if you sign up quickly, you might be able to join the 7 p.m. OCR lesson tonight. Might be a bit of a push, but you could then go to as well the AQA lesson tomorrow at 5:30, and you could come to the lesson on Thursday on exam questions. So if you signed up now, you get all of what we've said here, but you can actually start right now getting those lessons. So you'll be getting the lessons, getting the resources this week. Sometimes actually I get asked about the app. So let me just show you the app. Mine looks a bit different to yours. I need to unblur my background because I like have access to everything in the club, so yours won't have quite so much information as mine. But what you get is a selection of different things. If I just tap on the study chat room, so this is where people just go on and ask questions or I generally chat. I get notifications on my phone, so then I can reply to you straight away or whenever I see it on my phone. And that's why people also put in lesson requests. There's a little group for each teacher. So if you want to ask something about something that came up in the lesson or make a particular request to that teacher, then you can just type it into them and they get it. You've got the biology and the news, where I said I summarize what's new in biology each week. So I do a summary and give you a link so you can go and read about it. You've got the rewards leaderboard. So this is where you see what prizes you can get, as well as you can see where you are on the leaderboard and what prizes you're due to get that week. So yeah, that's the app. And when you sign up, you get a video talking you through how to use the club, what to do next, how to download the app. Here's the quiz to do. So it is very much led through as a video. And if you don't find anything, then I can always do like a quick Zoom call with you to show you how to use it. What's the lesson tonight? Tonight is OCR exchange surfaces. Tomorrow is AQA nitrogen cycle. Exam questions on nitrogen cycle on Thursday. You do get weekly reminders every week on what lessons are coming up, what time and what topics it is. So you know in advance. And there's a Google Drive where you can download all of the resources for the lessons as well. You also get a monthly newsletter telling you what's coming up that month, because you get access to some resources before everyone else. You get special discounts that other people don't get as well. Sometimes I throw in little bonus freebies also. So there's lots of added bonuses for being in the club. I don't know if there are any other questions. So hopefully that means I've answered all your questions. If you do have any other questions about the club, then just send me a message on Instagram and I can get back to you, so you can make sure if you feel comfortable that this is for you. But hopefully I'll see some of you in the club. If you do sign up today, then definitely send me a message on the study chat room to say, hey, I was at the session earlier and now I'm in the club. There's also some challenges. There's like a challenge that you can do immediately that you'll see when you get into the study club as well. So I hope you found that helpful, everyone. Thank you so much for giving up an hour of your time to hear all about revision and the biology study club. And best of luck for any tests you've got. Make sure you follow that entire strategy, and hopefully I will see you soon in the club, everyone. Oh, and that's how you can see Bibi's just gone a little bit wild behind me there. But bye, everyone. I hope you found it helpful, and enjoy the rest of your evening.